Pizza
and Co.
Welcome.
Whoa, hello.
You know what? It's been too long.
I'm not against this.
No. Sorry. No. I don't. I absolutely don't. Sorry. My bad.
Okay. Welcome to Second-Hand Haunting, where we read ghost stories from a second-hand book someone found in a second-hand shop to try and make sense of them.
Fun of them.
Sense of them.
Fun of them.
Sense of
Fun.
them.
Hey, Callum.
Oh, hey, Olly.
So, something...
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
Something really horrible happened to me. Look, I'm going to share a small personal story before we jump in, if that's okay.
Sure.
It's not related to ghosts. It's not related to books, but I'm going to do it as what do you call it when you it's like a PSA, public service announcement?
Sure, yeah.
So
go for it.
I had this really traumatic time in my life over the last a month and a half-ish where I started to feel really, really sick. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I started to get vertigo. And I was walking around like Captain Jack Sparrow.
Sure.
Sea
legs, yeah.
Yeah, like sea legs, but it was constantly had vertigo, wake up with vertigo, I'd walk around. I got to the point where I actually started getting really depressed and was almost accepting of the fact that my life was going to be like this now, because I went to the doctor. They couldn't figure out what was wrong. I went to the doctor a few different times, but the last time the doctor actually had a look, and he actually did something he probably should have done at the start. He had a look into my ears and he said, you've got a lot of earwax build up in one of your ears, but I don't think it's causing you to be this ill. And then I went and got a earwax syringe, and I cleared out all of the earwax out of the ear, and it was a comical amount of earwax that came out.
This is more horrific than anything in these books.
Something I actually took a photo of.
No! Why?
Because,
I'm so glad this is audio medium.
I actually wanted to show it to my partner because I wanted to say, hey, this is literally how much earwax came out of me. And then within a day, all of my symptoms went away.
Huh.
My vertigo went away, my stomach cramps. And I think a lot of it was actually related to the vertigo, because it was vertigo.
Because it stresses you out and causes other problems in your body, right?
Exactly. I couldn't sleep. I was nauseous. And I actually said to my partner that the day after, I remember I was at work, and halfway through the day, I actually started to become teary because of how happy I was to know that the sickness had gone. Because I'd just gotten so depressed to the point where I'd accepted this as being my new reality. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just to know that everything was over and that it had passed gave me such a brand new lease on life. I feel like going through it has actually made me a lot happier. Now, I know this might not be comparable to a lot of the traumatic experiences that people go through in life, but it was traumatic for me, and I kind of want to share that story because if anyone, experiences horrible vertigo, get your ears checked.
Yeah. Yep. That's a PSA here from us at Second-Hand Haunting.
So sorry to come in and take up the first couple of minutes of the show, but it's something I wanted to share.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better, and on with the show. Hey, have you ever heard of the Winchester Mystery House?
I have.
Ooh.
I have heard of the Winchester Mystery House, and I...
Without spoiling anything, what do you know about it?
Look, it's going to be hard to not spoil anything because I did a little bit of my own independent research.
Oh, no.
I did look up a bit of the history around the builder of the house. Was it Sarah?
It was Sarah, yes.
Sarah, yeah. And did find out that she did inherit a large part of the Winchester fortune for the guns that were made in that name.
All right, yes. We are absolutely getting into that whole story today.
So because I did a bit of background research on the house, on the legend, on the reality, I feel like if I gave you any more, I would be detracting from what I think you're going to tell us. So I'm gonna step back.
Okay.
What do you know of the history of the Winchester Mystery House?
I was probably vaguely aware of more or less the stuff that you've briefly noted, and a lot of the peculiar design choices of this particular house.
But were they design choices?
Ooh, we'll find out. Were they choices at all? But then my mum got back from holiday and presented me with Ghost Stories of California by Barbara Smith. And on page 1 was the Winchester Mystery House. I'm like, this is absolutely an episode. I'm sorry I didn't get to it sooner, but this is probably the most famous haunted house we've done.
Yeah, it is.
With the exception of maybe last fortnight's Theatre Royal, which hasn't come out yet, so Olly knows nothing about. So the beginning of the story here is slightly longer than normal because we do get some history of Sarah before she gets any idea to build a house.
I think that she had a lot of loss in her life.
Oh, she sure fucking does.
Yeah, but not as much loss as the Winchester itself caused, though. The champion of the West, I think, or the winner of the West, or caused a lot of deaths in the West, is all I was going to say.
The Winchester repeating rifle?
Yeah. Kept firing. Do you know they sold it to Indians? They sold it to the Indians and the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's how you make money, man. And that grand spirit of supplying arms to both sides of the conflict continues in America to this day. They just don't do it on their own soil anymore.
That's true.
Yeah. Leonard and Sarah Pardee, that's P-A-R-D-E-E, not actually party, belonged to the upper echelon of society in New Haven, Connecticut. Now, you may notice that is not California, but we'll get there.
I tell you what is good to point out. Being of the upper echelon of any society does not shield you from misery and heartache.
No, but it does let you build a whopping great fucking house, though.
It does, yeah.
They enjoyed all the advantages that money could buy. And when Sarah presented Leonard with a tiny, perfect baby daughter in 1840, the couple was sure their lives were complete. They named the new arrival after her mother, and proceeded to lavish the child with all of the many benefits at their disposal. So we've got 2 Sarahs in the story already. Don't worry, that's going to change in a minute. 6 years before little Sarah's birth, Oliver Winchester of New England had married Jane Ellen Hope. Although Oliver was by that time a wealthy man, he had been born into abject poverty and had never forgotten the hardships that he suffered because of it. All his life he worked to expand his financial empire and to ensure that his children were given advantages that he'd been denied as a boy. How you going there? You feeling a bit weird with there being another Oliver in the story?
Oh, all I can say is a great name. Great name. I've always really loved my name. You know, I've heard people say, "Oh, I don't like my name." I'm not that guy at all. I'm like, Oliver, what a great name. Did I get teased growing up? Absolutely. You know what?
Who didn't?
Character building.
William, the Winchesters' only son, grew up during a period when his father's industrial interests shifted from carpentry to textiles, and finally to the growth industry of the time, firearms. The guns may have seemed a contradiction to the intimate cultured elite society peopled by families like the Pardees and Winchesters, but much of the rest of their country consisted of settlers, cowboys, and gold miners. Such folks were creating their own societies not nearly so filled with the niceties, order, and laws and civilities. These were societies in which firearms were often the single determining factor between success and failure.
Between life and death.
Exactly. I think this is very much along the lines of when there's a gold strike, it's not the gold miners who get rich, it's the guy selling the shovels.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it was like what we were talking before, you know, they were happy to sell to anybody in any conflict.
Yep.
Which is how the gun became the gun that won the West. And I think they were looking to sell the Colt at the time.
Yeah. The book doesn't go into it, but we can briefly explain a bit. That the Colt is the good old 6-shooter pistol that you're familiar with cowboys having, whereas the Winchester repeating rifle was the Winchester's main idea, which was a gun that John Wayne uses. That's the one that the Terminator copied. He does like the flick to reload it using the lever action. Mm-hmm. Means you can put a bunch of really strong bullets in one gun and fire a bunch of times before having to reload. Mm-hmm. That's how he made his money.
Yeah.
Good man.
Dealer of death.
Yeah. Good gun, though. William Winchester's upbringing was, therefore... Sorry, did you have something to say?
Oh, no, I was just like, it was such a random comment, good gun. Just didn't expect it from you. You don't seem like the gun-toting cowboy.
I can appreciate technological innovation in many forms. It's a good gun, full stop.
I mean, you can argue that they got rich for a reason.
Yeah. So William Winchester's upbringing was, therefore, at least as privileged as Sarah Pardee's, who, by her teens, had been well schooled in languages and music. To add to her good fortune, Sarah was as pretty as she was petite. Not surprisingly, the girl was the belle of many balls. The most eligible bachelors of the day were crushed with disappointment when it was announced that William Winchester had won Sarah Pardee's hand in marriage. Now, you'll also note that they are 6 years of age different, which I think at the time is not bad. You'd find a lot worse matches at the time.
I was going to say, well, I'm 5 years apart from my partner, so...
The young couple's happiness was tragically short-lived. Their only child, a daughter born 4 years after their marriage, died of a mysterious ailment when she was just a few months old. Sarah's grief over the loss was virtually all-encompassing.
It's quite horrible, actually. The child itself was unable to ingest food.
Oh, God, is that what was wrong with it?
Yeah.
Oh, the poor thing.
Because it couldn't hold food down, essentially the child died of starvation.
Jesus Christ. That might be the reason for the next sentence then, which was, she never became pregnant again. I don't know if that's through trying or choice, but...
I imagine that would be quite traumatic to watch because they were trying to, feed this child, but because it couldn't essentially, hold that food down because of the condition that it had, they just had to watch it waste away until it died.
Ugh. God, it's like the Eraserhead of the 1840s.
Well, you could imagine, it would be one of those diseases or one of those ailments that a child would have had at the time that would have been easily treated today.
Yeah. Hooray for modern medicine. Get your ears checked, everyone.
I mean, worst case scenario, we would have put them on an intravenous drip with nutrients. Yeah. They wouldn't starve to death.
No. In 1880, William's father died, leaving control of the Winchester corporate empire to his only son. Sadly, William himself died less than 3 months later, and this left Sarah Pardee Winchester an incredibly wealthy, childless widow. It also left her completely devastated and utterly unable to cope. And I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that she wouldn't have even had an interest in the business or an experience with the rifles themselves, but she would have inherited all of this money from that industry, even though she wasn't a part of it. And I'm sure, I know that she put the control of that industry back into the hands of the line managers that would have been in charge at the time. So
people who actually knew the job, at least.
Exactly. So, although she would have kept shares in the organisation, she would have had nothing to do with running it.
Mm-hmm. So surely her life's got to look up for at least a little bit, right?
What happened?
To add to the woman's misery, her body had become riddled with painful arthritis. Friends tried to convince Sarah to move to a milder climate, but she stubbornly maintained that she had no interest in doing so. So this is pretty rock bottom for a rich person, right?
Yeah, I think the other thing, I'm not sure if it mentions that her mother passed away as well. And the whole...
You know what? History not so concerned about mothers, which is a shame. But
yeah.
I'm glad to hear that her mother is also dead.
I think she lost her husband and her mother, and I think it was another relative in the space of a couple of months.
Far out.
So, at this point she was incredibly riddled with grief, and she thought, what to do. Callie.
No, she didn't.
Oh, it wasn't Callie?
No, she didn't want to move. Not at all. But you know what happens when rich people are absolutely devastated and suffering with grief, right?
Spend money?
Well, yeah. I guess. They're always doing that.
Drinking, drugs? But do tell.
At this time, a fascination with spiritualism was sweeping the Western world.
Right. Yeah, well, one of the things that would have been... A lot of the time people, turned to the church, but it was a time where the draw of the church and what it offered was lessening it wasn't as enticing as the supernatural at the time.
No, especially at the time, we're post-American Civil War, so everybody has lost someone, and suddenly there's a whole bunch of people around claiming, oh, you can talk to your dead son, father, brother, husband. You just gotta give me some money.
Yeah, mediums were very, very popular back then.
Yeah, I wonder if one shows up in a minute. Psychically sensitive mediums were in huge demand. Of course, many of these psychics were complete frauds, but research does indicate that there were then, as there are now, a few who were genuinely gifted.
So like the Bitcoin at the time?
Yeah, there's a few that go to the moon. Adam Coombs of Boston was apparently one of those. When Sarah heard of Coombs' abilities, she travelled to consult with him. If that meeting had not taken place, it's safe to say that the curious tourists in California would have one less place to visit. It was Coombs who advised Sarah Winchester to create the architectural edifice that we know today as the very haunted Winchester Mystery House.
You know, I heard some like crazy statistic that like 20% of the people that visit the house see a ghost.
20%?
20%.
Shit, that's low.
That's low.
Sarah's session with Coombs was obviously a convincing one. The psychic knew nothing about William Winchester, but nonetheless apparently summoned the spirit of Sarah's late husband to the meeting.
I thought that figure was quite high, actually. 20%. I mean, like, imagine if you were like 20% guaranteed to see a ghost. Like, I would take that ticket.
Yeah, and I'm sure I would see a ghost. Much like Coombs here definitely saw Sarah's husband with absolutely no foreknowledge of one of the richest families in America at the time who famously makes all the guns and just died a couple months back. Like, if you're a psychic and Sarah Winchester knocks on your door, you're like, fucking payday. I know all about these guys. Through Coombs, the ghost explained that the spirits of the tens of thousands killed by the rifle that bore his name were tormenting him, and that those same ghosts would also prevent Sarah from living in peace. In order to accommodate their ghostly demands, William advised Sarah that she would have to leave the East and travel until she came to an unnamed location.
I tell you, if that were true, it'd be a big ghost collective. What do they call it when they sue someone as like a class action? That'd be like a big...
action haunting!
It'd be like a class action haunting.
Oh, there's the episode quote. Bloody hell. She would know the right place when she found it, he assured her. Once there, the distraught widow was to buy the property and begin constructing additions to the existing structure. At this point, I wonder if Mr. Coombs perhaps had a property to sell?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And or a construction business on the side?
Yeah, sure. I think the thing about the incredibly wealthy as well is that she was so incredibly wealthy that she wouldn't even have cared. Like, it wouldn't even have fazed her.
What, the amount of money she had?
Yeah, her wealth was so vast that the idea of just going to some random place and to start building a house was perfectly a reasonable idea to her. Like,
sure, I've bought 3 houses in the last week.
Exactly, that type of wealthy. You know, in her particular case, she was so wealthy, but she also had no children, as you know.
Yeah.
No real family. Like, any relatives that she was close to had died. So we're not even talking like a cousin that she could cuddle up to.
Oh, so, I don't know, maybe turn to philanthropy?
Well, it's interesting you should mention that, because when she died, she didn't even have any
Spoilers.
family. Oh, sorry. I mean,
Obviously
surely
she died.
she died.
It was over 100 years ago.
Exactly. I was going to like, surely she died. When she did die, she ended up leaving it to a hospital, which, you know, very much leveraged that into healthcare. So her legacy is really being able to provide healthcare to the sick and the disadvantaged into the future.
Huh. That makes me very happy that this tale has a slightly happy side to it. Not an ending.
Sorry if that was a bit premature. But,
nah, it's fine.
But to reel back from that, this is the level of sad and wealthy that we're talking about. And so that does make her incredibly vulnerable.
Yeah. vulnerable too. The tormenting spirits apparently wanted her to house them. And because the Winchester rifle was continuing to kill people, additions would have to be built continuously to accommodate an increasingly large population of phantoms. There's one now.
I wonder if the mic picked that up.
Sometimes it does.
Yeah, no, absolutely. An incredibly large populace of phantoms that would be.
Yeah.
I think the house itself is built in, I'm sorry if I don't quote this correctly, but I think it's like a Victorian style.
Yes. Well, she doesn't begin building the house. The house does exist and she adds on to it.
Right. Architecture that probably was with the existing house and also with the extensions was a Victorian style. Yep. Although, one of the things that I did hear about her, that she was incredibly interested in architecture.
No kidding.
And
that would not surprise anyone as this story continues.
And the estate, as it stands today, is still incredibly vast. Like, it's a huge house. Like, I don't have the measurements off the top of my head, but it's a very huge house and property. And I heard that she did attempt to borrow architectural ideas from all over the world in the construction of the house. Although I think one of the main architectural aspects of it was the Victorian style.
Absolutely. Determined to honour the wishes of her deceased husband, Sarah Winchester drew on her enormous wealth to travel west. She eventually purchased an 8-room house on a tract of land in San Jose. As soon as she had done so, she hired a crew of carpenters and instructed them to begin adding rooms to the place. They did, and the construction that began that day did not stop for the next... how many years, Ollie? Do you know?
I do not know. I'm going to say... let's say 10.
10 years?
20 years?
20 years.
I'll say 20. I'm going to sit on 20.
39 years.
39 years. I mean, good for her for living 39 years.
Yeah.
One of the things I did find really fascinating about her is that maybe it was due to the level of sickness when she did finally pass away. But she's reported as getting to a point, especially when her arthritis felt like it was becoming particularly bad.
Yeah.
But she was noted as settling her affairs.
Okay.
So before she died, she was like knowing that her death was imminent, paying off all of her workers to make sure that they had been paid everything that they owed, wrapping up all of her affairs, making sure her will's in order, and then dying like a couple of weeks after.
Wow, okay.
So she seemed to know that it was coming. Whether or not that may be because she hastened it, to happen.
Okay.
Or whether she just had a feeling, but she was very much like, oh, I'm about to die. I should wrap things up.
Interesting. Somewhere in there I had a thought and I've forgotten it. Give me a sec.
Witches are known to be able to do that.
No, that's going to distract me. Hang on.
Sorry.
Yes, the thought. The thought I had was, given that she did eventually leave all of her money to the local hospital, I was wondering if perhaps she was not trying to kind of help the local carpenters with all of this building. It's like, hey, I've got too much money. Jono, Bert, get over here and start building this house. Just keep building. Keep going. Keep building. I'll keep paying your invoices.
I mean, if you want to go down that road,
I do.
Well, she was very keen on architecture. She didn't actually have much to do.
Yeah.
So
what would this staircase look like next to that window? Build it for me.
So a lot of the building very much could have been just because she was very interested in building.
Was she trying to create the world's biggest show house?
Could have been.
Show house, is that right?
I do have...
Display home.
Display home, yeah. I do have a tidbit that I want to share about why the architecture of the house is so interesting, but I want to keep that in my back pocket for a while.
I think there is a point where it would be a good to bring it up, and I think it will be obvious when that point is.
What I will say is, whether or not she was intentionally helping the local carpenters or not, she definitely did help the local carpenters. Yeah. She definitely paid a lot of people to build a lot of house.
Then they all get RSI, they have to go to the hospital for treatment, she gives money to the hospital. As the weird mansion evolved, Sarah Winchester herself became increasingly strange. On the rare occasion that she went into town, she often chose and purchased fabric from which to have her dresses made. To ensure that no one else would have a dress of the same material, she always bought the entire bolt.
That'll do it.
Yeah. That's a very rich person, isn't it?
And that's the other thing, that she was a recluse. And she was known to be a recluse. So not someone that was, throwing big balls.
So why is she making all these fancy dresses then? I think she's trying to keep the local dressmaker in business.
It's interesting you should say that, because it's fascinating to have someone that is so generous and yet so recluse at the same time. And people used to make up stories about her because she was so recluse and because she generally rebuffed people's attempts to befriend her. So she was like the weird neighbor.
The J.D. Salinger of the day.
So because people couldn't find out information about her, they started just making things up.
As you would. Yeah, maybe some of those things is ghosts. We'll see. Oh, there you go. As the months wore on, she became a recluse, shutting herself off from the outside world completely. Even, it is said, declining to acknowledge a visit from President Theodore Roosevelt.
Who cares about presidents?
Buddy!
I've got all this money.
He probably wants a handout.
Probably did.
Yeah. Or he wants to go hunting in the house. I'm going to track down these spirits one way or the other. Tally-ho!
Pip pip.
I don't know why he's suddenly English. He was like the most American president there's ever been.
They're still a little English back then, weren't they?
A little.
A little?
Yeah, a little. Her entire existence was devoted to mollifying the spirits.
Mm-hmm.
The continuous additions to her property were intended not only to house the ever-increasing number of souls who met death as a result of the rifle that bore the Winchester family name, but also to confuse any evil spirits, as opposed to the good ones that are haunting her. There's one now. I'm leaving these in this time.
God, I hope that stays in. Well, I mean, you got to confuse those evil spirits.
Yeah, when you got a psychic whispering in your ear. Maybe she's just trying to prop up the local psychic industry.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of sci-fi. Bear with me. So the
channel? The genre?
The genre.
Okay.
And I've often thought that sometimes when I watch sci-fi, this idea of different species of aliens having these like defining like features or personality traits.
Sure, yeah, like everyone on this planet is. Oh God, no, I can't finish that sentence.
I was going to say passive or aggressive. Like,
yeah, there you go.
Like everyone on this planet is a psycho. Like everyone on this planet is sex crazed. Like
everyone on this planet's a commie. This planet's a fasci.
Yeah, exactly. Which completely ignores the fact that human beings are a vast tapestry of mental issues, and so
I'm not going to disagree.
So, like, why would that be not true for aliens or ghosts, right? So, obviously, if we do have ghosts are going to be a tapestry of personality traits, not just like friendly ghosts or mean ghosts. People, by their very definition, are going to be
evil, apparently.
Wow, I was going to say a tapestry again, but I've been overusing the word. But it is what it is. It's a tapestry of people.
So is it evil people that become evil spirits, or what?
Maybe it goes the other way. Like evil people become like good spirits because they like repent when they die. But then the good spirits become evil because they were like, I was so boring in life, I want to rebel in death.
Okay, we're getting into serious metaphysical conversations here that are not applicable to this story.
I don't know. But like, all I can say is that they're just going to be people. Some are going to be peaceful, some are going to be pissed off.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
It could depend on the day.
There's so many ghosts haunting the house that on any given day there's at least 20 that are feeling a bit evil. Yeah?
Yeah.
Toward this end, Sarah ordered the most peculiar configurations created in the building. She felt that secret passageways, miles of switchback corridors, doors which opened to blank walls, stairways that lead nowhere, and chimneys that stopped short of the roofline would all help to keep these malignant phantoms from finding and tormenting her.
Or maybe there were stairways to heaven.
Oh, no.
All right, just take that one out.
No. How tall could they build in those days?
Not very tall. I love the stairways that you see in the photos being like cut off by the floor above.
Yeah.
It's not like a stairway to nowhere. It's a stairway to a wall, essentially.
Yeah.
Or doorways that, open out to nothing.
In your research, did you find any pictures of the, quote, chimneys that stopped short of the roof line, end quote?
No.
I can't even imagine what that means. Does it mean the ceiling or the roof? Is it a fireplace that empties into the attic? I don't know.
One would hope that they boarded up the fireplace. We actually have a couple of fireplaces in the house where we live.
Yeah.
And it's kind of depressing that they're not usable for whatever reason. I think
they're gorgeous architectural features, but...
Yeah, they've been boarded up, and because they've been boarded up, they actually just use up space. They use up space that could be otherwise used by open floor plans.
Or a nice bookcase on that wall.
Indeed. Yeah, fireplaces aren't as popular as they used to be. And I'm hoping that no one lights a fire and then realizes the smoke bellows out.
No, and God, if the place does catch on fire, this place is not up to code in terms of escape routes, is it?
Well, they could trick people, couldn't they?
But that's not what you want when a fire's happening. Unless you want more ghosts. Ollie, do you want more ghosts in this house? Because this is how you get more ghosts.
Well, I tell you, the Mystery House today is definitely a great attraction. I'm sure the people that sell tickets to this Mystery House would not have any issue with real ghosts or more stories about their said house.
They might have issue with their place of work being burnt to the ground, though. Partially or completely.
It's kind of fascinating because it's like a vast estate, and it is used now really as an attraction in what would probably be considered to be great real estate. So they still make enough money as an attraction for them to keep it up as opposed to just,
Oh, God, yeah, the upkeep in this place would be horrific. Like, I'm looking at a picture of it. It's approximately the size of a small village.
In a way, we're probably lucky to have it because you get those really great examples of architecture and build, and they haven't demolished it in favour of apartments.
And all it took for this incredible house to exist was one really rich woman having the absolute worst life possible.
Yeah, but that is not under debate. In fact, if that first child had lived, this house would never have been built. That I know for certain.
The butterfly effect of this story is immense, much like the house site. Even with all those precautions, the pitiful woman lived in a state of constant terror. She slept in a different bedroom every night, in an apparently successful attempt to keep the possibly vengeful wraiths from finding her.
Maybe she just wanted to use all the rooms.
Yeah, I would.
It's like she's travelling without leaving the state or the house.
Or your house. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, like if she's got agoraphobia or something and can't leave the house.
What, you mean like a whole bunch of people in her life died from disease? And now she doesn't want to leave the house in case she actually catches it. Maybe that's why she's a recluse. Oh, it all makes sense.
Yeah, it does. There's worse ways to live if that is her condition of like, well, I'm going to make my house as crazy and interesting as possible.
I had a friend that had a sibling that had agoraphobia once.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were limited to their room. They were too afraid to come out of their room.
Dang, that sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't know whatever happened to them. But I remember at the time thinking to myself, it's be a real challenge. Yeah.
Back then, they didn't even have DoorDash. I don't know why I'm making light of this poor person. I think that's because what our podcast is. Basically.
Well, no, you make good points, actually. In a lot of ways, I think our society at large is becoming more reclusive because we have so many different services now. People.
Yeah, and we also had a massive pandemic a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It's not helping.
No, not at all. And in today's age, you can work from and live in a house where you make money, and you can make money from home. You can get everything ordered to home. It's a lot easier to be agoraphobic now than it was 100 years ago, unless you had vast amounts of money to have different servants to go get food and stuff.
Yeah, Uber Eats is not cheap.
No. I'd still be difficult to move. Like if someone came and evicted you from your house, I imagine it'd be incredibly horrible for someone that had an affliction like that. Anyway.
In addition to the never-ending construction, Sarah also sought to appease the spectral entities by entertaining them.
Oh, I haven't heard this part.
Yeah. She spent agonizing hours playing the piano and organ with her painfully arthritic fingers, so that the spirits could enjoy dancing to the music she made.
Nice. Well, obviously not for the arthritic fingers.
No. That would have bloody hurt, right?
Shame you can't just put the TV on.
Not even radio.
They don't have radio back then. Surely they had radio.
What was it? 1880s?
I don't know. I feel like they had radio in the 1800s, didn't they? God, technology's come a long way.
I don't think it was far away, but I don't think it was there yet. Hang on. Radio invention. Oh, there you go. It was invented in the 1890s.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, not far. Not far, but not there yet.
That is so crazy. Radio was invented 150 years ago.
Yeah.
Radio. 130 years ago, people couldn't listen to radio.
No.
And now I have a smartphone.
And a podcast.
How long have human beings been on this earth? Was it 20,000 years? Ish? 40,000. Oh, that's what I was going to say, because 200,000.
Yeah, it's getting closer.
Let's just say hypothetically...
Sorry, I'm holding my finger up. I don't know why I'm doing that.
Sure.
We should take a lesson out of radio's playbook here.
Sure, it could be longer than this, but let's say hypothetically it's 200,000 years that we've had human beings on this. I've seen archaeological evidence to suggest that human beings had the same mental capacity that we do now a couple 100,000 years ago.
Yeah. We just hadn't, found stuff yet.
Right. But 130 years ago, people couldn't listen to radio. Yeah. That's how quickly technology has moved in the last 130 years.
Do you think how depressing it would be? You'd have to go and talk to someone.
No, I'm just really fascinated by the sheer exponential growth of technology in the last 130 years.
Strap in, motherfucker. It's getting faster.
It is, right? Yeah.
These dance sessions often followed elaborate dinner parties, at which phantoms were not just the guests of honour, but the only guests. As the sole living person in the room, Sarah would preside at the head of a beautifully set table and order her servants to serve lavish 5-course meals to her ghostly guests.
So, for the record, the only people that would even know whether or not this happened or not would be the servants?
Presumably, yes.
Because no one's talking to this woman.
No.
And I may have mentioned before that the lack of conversation did lead to people just making up random things. So
funny that. Here's another theory, though. Perhaps she's trying to financially support the local chefs and the local hunters and farmers with hunters all of her ostentatious food wastage.
So your suggestion is basically that she is a philanthropist of the highest caliber.
Was that the best pun we're going to have all night?
How was that punny?
Well, how did she get her fortune?
How?
Guns? Through, yeah.
You don't have to lead me up to the... Sorry.
Caliber is how you measure the size of bullets.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay, so the caliber of her character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck. I don't even know if I can edit that one together. I will try.
The caliber of her character.
Yeah, I think she's actually just trying to be a kind of slightly misguided philanthropist.
Look, I would be if I was her. Although, to be fair, I'd probably talk to people more.
But she doesn't want to talk to people, right? That's the whole thing.
No, I know. I'm just saying, if I was her, I had a lot of money, I'd probably talk to more people. That's all I'm saying. I also think that if I had vast amounts of wealth and money became no object, I don't think I'd be one to hoard that money. I'd be like,
yeah.
You have a car. You have a car.
Cars didn't exist yet. You have a horse and you have a horse. Wait, can you upkeep a horse? Here, have some hay and a barn.
And a barn.
And a coachman. And a coach?
You have a coach. You have a coach.
This is all sounding very difficult. Come over and make dinner for me and my ghost friends.
Indeed.
These invisible guests always numbered an even dozen, because Sarah was convinced that there was magic in the number 13. And in this way, she would always be the 13th at the table. Her obsession with 13 ruled more than just her mealtime entertaining. Staircases each had to have 13 steps. Rooms, 13 windows. Windows, 13 panes. Chandeliers, 13 lights. The house even had 13... what?
Peacocks?
I love where your brain's just going.
I don't know what you
there.
expect me to say.
Bathrooms.
Okay.
That's probably a good point to bring up. Do you have any insight as to what might be going on with the obsession with the number 13 or her decisions to incorporate it in everything?
What I had heard was that one of the things that people potentially made up about her was her fascination with the number 13.
Ah.
And after she died, the house went into the hands of people that did use the house for profit. So the people that bought the house then used those rumors to essentially turn that house into an amusement for the populace. And it is noted that additional modifications to the house were made, often to fuel those rumours.
Oh, so she might have had just a slightly strange house. But then by the time these greedy theme park venture capitalists come in, the house was a fucking freak show.
Exactly. So, for instance, in the case of her being known to have an obsession with the 13, would lead them to make additional modifications to the house to include more 13s.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yep. Thank you for your research, Ollie.
Oh, that's okay. Look, I think I'll put this in now as well. One thing that they don't talk about is that a lot of those mysterious modifications that had happened to the house didn't actually come from her making those modifications to the house.
Oh.
So what happened was, and again, we're talking about California here.
Yeah.
So actually, her original intention for that house was to just make a house, a manor, if you would. And she did hire an incredibly large amount of builders to continually build out additional rooms and to grow the house. But then
there was no radio for them to all talk to each other, so they all built on top of each other and it all got confused.
But then there was an earthquake.
Oh shit.
And it demolished large parts of the house.
Huh.
As well as probably other properties in the area. Because California was known for earthquakes. And
yeah, it still is.
San Andreas Fault,
yep.
if I recall correctly. And so what happened, though, was after the earthquake, she decided, instead of going back and fixing up all the damage, she decided to just build over the damage.
Oh.
So the house itself was incredibly damaged by this earthquake, but she didn't decide to demolish the house or parts of the house.
She's like, the second floor kind of fell over. Fuck it, we're just going to put a roof there and that stairway goes nowhere now.
Exactly. So a lot of the modifications that were made to the house can be easily explained by the fact that she wasn't necessarily a crazy builder, she was a lazy builder.
Well, I think I need to get us slightly back on track here and say maybe the earthquake happened because she wasn't building the house fast enough.
Okay.
While all of this is intriguing and undeniably bizarre, is it safe or even reasonable to presume that Sarah Winchester was truly haunted by the spirits of those killed with the Winchester rifle? Or was the woman merely insane?
If she was insane, I think she was insanely stricken by grief.
Yeah. At the very least, she was, much like the San Andreas Fault, a bit shaky.
Look, cut those claps out if you want.
No, I will include accolades to myself at every available opportunity.
That was a zinger. Yes, I genuinely think that she was a philanthropist, was very interested in architecture, and was very struck down by grief.
Man.
Sad, really.
It is. It is sad. Fortunately, though, we're about to leave Sarah Winchester's story behind to get into the actual dang ghosts that haunt this place.
Okay.
History has assured us that the answers to these questions are not straightforward. There's no point in denying that Sarah had little connection with reality by the time she settled in California. And since her death in 1922, however, many people have determined that her strange architectural legacy really is home to ghosts, even to the ghost of Sarah herself.
Just to throw a curveball,
Oh.
even if the house wasn't designed to house ghosts, wasn't designed in crazy ways to ward off evil spirits, doesn't mean it couldn't attract ghosts. Certainly the type of space to attract ghosts.
You haven't heard last fortnight's episode yet, but we did theorize that there are certain spaces in the world which are kind of ghost black holes, which just suck in ghosts all around them and end up way more haunted than anything else nearby.
Let me talk to you about ley lines.
Oh, no. Because
that was the reaction I was looking for, by the way.
Because there is little such else an odd building could be used for, Winchester House has been a popular tourist attraction since the year of the haunted widow's death. So they started soon.
This is what I'm saying. You know,
she's dead, give me the house, I want it. We're going to sell tickets.
It was well known. And you got to remember that this house probably would have been sold in a fire sale. The fact is that no one was inheriting this house.
Yeah. So
it could have been sold by the state for all we know. I'm pretty sure she gave her inheritance to the hospital. Maybe the hospital sold it, but they're not. If the hospital did sell it, they're looking to get rid of the house as soon as possible.
You know how these days you put your house up on like realestate.com or something, and it will list like 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2 carport.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the numbers are like on this house? 34.3 reoccurring ? Bedroom?
That's funny. No, it would be a hell of a listing. And I'm sure even today, just the land itself would be like worth a huge amount of money.
In California? Yes.
Yeah, in San Jose. But the house was very quickly bought and turned into a tourist attraction, and it was fueled by those stories that already existed about Sarah. Again, she wasn't amongst the public doing anything to deter people from making up these rumors about her.
I mean, it probably started with the locals, right? Watching this house get built and built and built and built throughout the years, being like, I just want to see inside. What's in there?
Meanwhile, she's behind closed doors thinking to herself, haters gonna hate.
I'm just thinking that the real estate agent's selling tickets to the open inspection.
At the time, they probably didn't think about what else they could do with the house. One wonders whether the person at the time didn't see the value in levelling the property and
oh, yeah.
First of all, I would love to see the Winchester Mystery House.
You bet. If I ever go to America, I want to go to the Winchester Mystery House.
I think it would be incredible. But the thing that I think would be so incredible about it would just be the architecture. I would love to see that architecture firsthand.
Thousands of people are guided through the house every year. And even with the majority of the rooms sealed off, visitors are in the enormous, rambling structure for more than an hour. Some of those visitors have testified to seeing, hearing, or feeling unearthly spirits. The staff, who are obviously considerably more accustomed to the atmosphere of the house, have also reported encounters with spirits. When psychics have been brought in, their insights have confirmed the presence of ghosts. You'd be a pretty poor psychic if you showed up somewhere and said, nah, this place is clean, moving on.
If I was a psychic, I'd say there was ghosts everywhere. And I'd probably be right.
You keep waiting for me to drink, don't you? Sylvia Brown, a respected California-based psychic. Is that a... I have trouble with this word.
Oxymoron.
Yeah.
You can be respected in a field that you don't necessarily believe in. I don't know if I would call that an oxymoron.
No, you're right.
I feel like
you're right. That's a sham.
I feel like that's you going for the jugular.
Yep. Either way, Sylvia Brown, respected oxymoron, spent a night in the house. Spent a night in the house with a few of her fellow paranormal researchers. She claimed to have heard organ music, which she presumed to be the ghostly echoes of the concerts that Sarah so painfully performed for the spirits.
Do you know, there's a part of me that really wishes that I was someone that believed that I could make tools to find ghosts. That'd be a hell of a profession. Someone that makes ghost detecting devices. I wish that I believed that I could make ghost detecting devices and sell them. I genuinely don't think I could do that without believing it. Like, I definitely don't think I could just like wake up one day and pretend to make pretend devices that could maybe find ghosts. I'm not saying people haven't done it. I just don't think I could do it.
It's because you're too honest, Ollie.
I really wish that I was someone that believed that I could make devices to do that, because that would be like such a fun job. What's the musical instrument that you can use your hand to like make a noise with?
Theremin.
Theremin. I put a theremin on one of them.
Those things.
Yeah. That's what I would put on my ghost hunting device to attract the ghosts. I'd be like, to start with, you make theremin noises. Here's the theremin.
It's enrichment for ghosts. Give them something to play with.
The theremin?
Yeah. Set up a theremin and a spirit box and a Ouija board. I do have a spirit box and a Ouija board. We really should play with them sometime. Channel the spirits sometime.
We've always put this off. I actually do have a story of using a Ouija board as a kid.
Oh, okay. So we definitely have to do a Ouija board bonus episode sometime then.
Okay.
Yeah? Are we good with that?
Yeah, no, it's a good story.
Sweet. All right.
I don't think you'll believe it, but it's a good story.
Oddly, Brown's colleagues heard nothing. For this reason, it might have been easy to dismiss Brown's findings, except that the tape recorder, which had been running throughout their stay in the house, recorded exactly what Sylvia Brown had heard.
So you're telling me a tape recorder recorded what she heard?
Yes. But
it's kind of like they're designed to do that.
But nobody else heard it.
Oh, okay.
Nobody else in the,
200 rooms.
Biggest, most accidentally soundproofed mansion.
Soundproof because there's a couple of rooms in between. You know, one of the comments that I heard about the Victorian style of house building was actually, and I'm not sure if this is true or not, but apparently a lot of large estates were quite labyrinth-like. And it kind of reminds me of a lot of some of the stories that I heard growing up where people lived in big Victorian houses were often getting lost in the house. You know, one of the reasons why they actually used to use that style, creating labyrinth-like houses, was actually for insulation, because they didn't have modern insulation. So creating like entire rooms of insulation.
Yeah, the more walls and doors and corners you've got, the fewer drafts you're going to have.
Exactly, yeah.
I believe that. Smart.
I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. That's just a random tidbit from my research. Ooh, there's another ghost. Are you communicating with us?
Oh, yeah, the ghost's making my fingernail hurt. In addition, all those present that night detected inexplicable cold spots in areas where no drafts would have been possible. So we've just discussed how drafts don't happen in Victorian houses, but the cold spots apparently do.
I mean, it's not necessarily...
It's not unusual given that the house half fell down at one point and was hastily patched back together.
Is drafts the only thing that creates cold? Can temperature just be different?
Yeah, shadows.
It's just a thought. I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like you can be in a draftless room and potentially one side can still be colder. Like, there's other aspects that affect temperature. Just throwing it out there.
I don't think we have...
Like, I'm a believer. I'm just... I just don't know. I genuinely think there is more to this world than we know.
But I don't think we will ever let cold spots be evidence of that.
Exactly. I'd like a little bit more proof than a cold spot. That's all I'm saying. I might not sound like a believer, but I am. I just want better evidence and more support.
Don't worry, I believe you. They also watched in fascination as ghost lights appeared, moved about, and then vanished into different parts of the house.
Oh, that's better. Although, to be fair, I think that's the thing that I do genuinely worry about when you talk about like a house that's genuinely designed to be a tourist attraction. Because I don't know what they've baked into this house. This could be Disneyland for all I know.
It's probably not far from... No, that's Florida. Is there a Disneyland in California? Probably.
I wouldn't put it past ghost houses to have like trick candles and well, if you're
just
literally
strobe lights.
If the house is literally set up as an amusement, then having a candle that inexplicably falls off the mantle by itself because maybe there's a little pad that pops up, like that seems like a reasonable thing to happen. That's all I'm saying.
I fully agree.
Maybe have a chilling floorboard to make a cold spot in the house.
But what about another psychic? Warren Kapling had a similar experience.
Oh, Warren, though. That guy, salt of the earth.
He too listened to phantom organ music, but interestingly, he was in the bedroom where Sarah Winchester died when he was treated to an impromptu concert. And there has never been an organ in that area of the house.
Was he a eunuch? Thank you. I will be here all night.
Immediately after the music stopped, a ghost light travelled across the bedroom, stopping for a moment at the bed before vanishing. On Halloween in 1975, psychics Jean Borgen and Joy Adams spent an unnerving time in the Winchester house.
Yeah, I heard that Halloween comes from the mythology around when the Knights Templar was eliminated.
I was prepared for a lot of ways that sentence was going to go. That was not one of them.
Ooh, one fun fact as well, just because...
Oh, we're not getting more about the Knights Templar?
Oh, we are. That's the other fun fact.
Okay.
That Jedi Knights are loosely based on the Knights Templar.
That was not the fact I was hoping to hear.
Okay. What were you
Why is Halloween connected to the Knights Templar?
Oh, because it was around the time...
Oh, was that when they were massacred?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd have to check my facts here. I'm not going to say this is true, but
I
think there's actually a bigger story to that, though.
There is, and I think they were actually not necessarily eliminated so much as they were just subsumed into other religious orders at the time.
Yeah, No, I feel like we could probably talk about that all night. So let's
We'll do ourselves a whole Halloween special sometime, shall we? Actually, that's coming
Can
up.
we do that? Are we allowed to
we
do
could.
that?
Halloween is coming up. I know we're recording well in advance, but we should definitely do a Halloween episode.
I'd love to do
This
that.
might even be it. I don't know. I'll have to check the release schedule.
Maybe I could dress up as a vampire.
And I'll dress up as I already look like a pumpkin.
Halloween party.
Halloween party! No. Halloween Winchester. After she married... Where was I? Yes. Borgen watched in horror as Adam's body was taken over by a spirit. Probably the spirit of Sarah Winchester herself.
What did she say?
A famous other person lover, Sarah Winchester. She didn't even want to share a house with anyone, let alone a body.
I know you never had respect for them, but I feel like I'm actually losing respect for the mediums as I hear these stories.
Really? Oh, that's a shame.
I know. I thought they were helping people up until this point.
Sarah has also appeared as a silent apparition in various rooms and passageways, and has even been seen outside on the beautiful grounds that surround the house. Sue Sale, an employee of the haunted house, was shocked to see Sarah's image sitting at the kitchen table. The manifestation was so lifelike that Sale initially assumed it was an actor dressed for the part. Which indicates to me she might be used to actors being around the place. Which is telling in and of itself, isn't it?
Again, it is very much a tourist trap, as you said before. An amusement park.
Instead of Mickey Mice, they've got Sarah's Winchester.
To be fair, it'd be a bigger draw for me, personally.
God, what would be scarier? Walking through the Winchester Mystery House and seeing the apparition of Sarah Winchester, or seeing Mickey Mouse in there?
Oh, Mickey Mouse would be terrifying.
Yes. Okay, now how about Goofy?
Absolutely terrifying. Just so you know, I'm imagining these characters in my mind as some sort of mutant-like actual, human physical manifestation of the characters.
Right, okay, not just a dude in costume.
No, it's like a physical, humanish version of these characters.
Have I been reading too long? Your brain is going some strange directions.
Oh, what I just imagined, I kid you not, is terrifying.
I'm sure it is. Others who've encountered the former owner's presence agree that it is a strong spirit, but also use the words such as gentle and kind when describing what they've seen.
If there's one thing I would say for sure is that I have a great admiration for the character herself. So, what Sarah did, how she persevered, the architecture that she created, the ability to turn that immense grief into what I would actually call art. Incredibly expensive art, which is what that house is admirable in its own right.
Yes, I would agree. It's a strange art, but it's art.
Yeah, well, if she wasn't attempting to house ghosts and she was creating a house, I mean, she certainly wasn't building that house for just her. We do know that.
Yeah. Gentle, yes. Kind, yes. Generous, yes. Strange, absolutely.
100%.
Other employees hear the sounds of someone breathing and of whispering voices, but can never track down their source. Doors often mysteriously slam shut in unoccupied parts of the building.
Like wind?
Yeah, probably. Or given what you said about the house having half fallen down and hastily been put back together, I don't think that lends itself to structural integrity, does it?
No, yeah. I mean, it's not really even put back together. It's just like boarded up.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, well, there's no real point in trying to like salvage this part. I'm just going to border it up. And yeah exactly.
Move
what
on,
you talked
build
about.
Another bit.
That was exactly what you said. If half a staircase was destroyed, she just built another story on top and built a staircase in another place. Again, she was incredibly wealthy.
Do you think when the earthquakes happened, she would have the reaction that most humans do and go like, oh no? Or is she like, oh goody, I get another opportunity to build?
Probably that, yeah. Well, she certainly wasn't perturbed, she was fine.
She was disturbed. Tourists who take photographs while in the house are frequently treated to an extra image in a few of the frames. Ghost lights are etched on the film of some negatives, even though the photographer saw nothing like them when he or she was setting up or taking the shot.
I feel like we're creating marketing material for this place.
I think there is a reason it appears as the first story in this book. And also, we know that bloody orbs in photographs, it's just dust. It's light reflecting off dust right next to the camera lens.
I did not know that.
Oh, well, that's what ghost orbs is.
Orbs of dust.
And this house sounds like an absolute nightmare to dust, right? So there's going to be dust floating around.
I mean, we've definitely seen those photos, and I'm like, whenever I've seen ghostly figures in photography where they've usually been like a whole person, though.
A double exposure.
Yeah. Normally in like a nightgown, because that's how ghosts like to roll, I often wonder where that image of the ghost in the sheet came from.
Yeah. Cartoons, I think.
Whether or not they just think like a ghost was like a white blob, or I don't know.
I'm going to say Casper. I've got no idea. One amazing picture reveals the form of a man dressed in... Do you want to guess?
Is it a sheet?
Overalls. Although no one present saw his image at the time. I've never heard of an overall ghost, but I like it. It's unique.
Overalls, coveralls.
Yeah.
Coveralls. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yes, I think they're slightly different. Overalls is like comes up to here and then it's just like straps, whereas coveralls is like a painter's smock that also covers the arms.
Oh, right. So overalls are cool. Okay. Yeah. I get it.
Overalls is like a farmer.
Right.
Yeah. What are you looking up there? You're looking at Winchester Mystery House coveralls ghost? Because I did and I could not find the photo.
You could not find a coveralls photo for the Winchester ghost?
No, I'm annoyed. I couldn't find it. I could find a photograph of a bunch of people that hang in the Winchester Mystery House that happens to include a man in overalls, but I couldn't find the ghost photograph itself. At least a few of the ghosts inhabiting Winchester House seem to enjoy practical jokes. They not only unlock secure doors, but once, after employee Alan Witzel had finished turning off all the lights in the house, locking it up and going out toward his car, he looked back at the house to make sure he hadn't missed the lights in any of the rooms. Content that the house was in darkness, he made his way to his car, and from there he looked back again, This time, all of the third floor windows were brightly lit up.
Maybe they were like clap-ons.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like if this place does have some particular lighting rigs set up on timers for guests, maybe someone just set them wrong. Witzel was also the butt of what was possibly a ghostly prank. He came to work one day to find everything in his office wet.
Ghost orgy?
Oh, no. Maybe.
Was it wet and sticky or just wet?
The water didn't leak in through natural means because the walls, ceiling and floor were bone dry.
No, there's definitely a... No, okay, I'll stop.
One employee, then Director of Operations Roger Lafontaine, actually hoped to find water seepage in an electrical fixture. He thought the water might explain why the light bulb had exploded. Unfortunately for his peace of mind, he found both the socket and the area around it completely dry. Although it is highly unusual for a light bulb to explode spontaneously, it is technically possible.
Anyway, I think that's one of the things, whenever you have a story about something that could potentially be explained in various different other ways, when you're in a ghost house, especially if you're in an attraction, you're going to look for the ghostly explanation first.
Yes.
You know, you're going to really jump to the ghost conclusion as opposed to why else could this be wet?
Yeah. Why is it wet? Why did that light bulb explode? Could it be the 100-year-old faulty, dodgy electrical wiring that is definitely not up to code after 3 earthquakes?
Like, if a light behind you right now blew, my first thought wouldn't be ghost. It'd be like, oh, it's probably an old light globe. Although, to be fair, if it did it like as I said it, that would be quite fun. No, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, we'll give it a moment. Actually, no, we should speed up and hurry to finish before the light goes out and I can't read any more book. Given that the event occurred in the very haunted Winchester house, though, it is equally likely that the accident was caused by some paranormal means. Even with the evidence cited above, we cannot know for sure whether Sarah Winchester was in fact haunted by the ghosts of the souls killed by the Winchester repeating rifle. It is certainly reasonable, however, to assume that the Winchester Mystery House is now thoroughly haunted. If not by the rifle's victims, then certainly by Sarah and some of her exceptionally loyal staff. Best of all, this haunted venue is open to the public, and the administration is very accepting of the fact that the house is home to ghosts.
Could you imagine, though, and I feel like this is such a rich person thing to think, like, my servants would prefer to be with me than their own families. Like, if you're going to die, you're not going to like, oh, I'm a servant at this house. Surely I'm going to haunt the house where I was a servant. No, I'm going to go and haunt the house where my family lives, right?
I'm going to keep this philanthropist Sarah Winchester thread going.
Okay.
I'm going to say that everyone in the house that she hired is themselves an orphan or widow or widower or someone who has no family, and she's brought them all in, and I have absolutely no evidence of this fact.
So she's partying. That's probably something that I may do if I was a philanthropist and I had no family. I might hire on people that had no family and then create my own internal family. Maybe that would be the reason why she didn't necessarily need to talk to people outside of the house, because everyone in the household was like a part of one big family.
Yeah.
Maybe she left money to them as well. I mean, I don't know exactly how the estate was split up. She might have left money to servants as well as the hospital.
I know how the estate was split up.
Do you?
The earthquakes.
All right. Very funny.
Look, I don't think that there is any doubt that my MVP of this week is Sarah Winchester herself.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
There is nobody, either in real life or our imaginations of Sarah Winchester, that could come close to beating her.
The more I learn about Sarah, the more I felt for her and the more fascinated I was by her. I felt like she was someone that, even though she did inherit an immense amount of wealth, she did it in such a way that everyone that she was close to died.
Yeah.
As well as potentially seeing her own child starve to death as an infant.
Forgotten about that, Jesus.
I think she was one of those people that no amount of money could have actually consoled the amount of misery that did befall her as a person.
No, it turns out money can't do that.
I was really fascinated by how she expressed her grief. I look at her life as someone that had a fortunate upbringing, an unfortunate adulthood, and then expressed her misery in what she considered to be a type of art form.
Yeah. It's a shame we don't have more Sarah Winchesters around these days. I guess rich people just make art by, like, going on YouTube and building 100 houses and curing people's eyesight for views. That's right. We're coming for you, Mr. Beast. And we'll be coming for you again, you little dog, too.
Well, you know, it's interesting you should say that, because I think a lot of the incredibly wealthy people around the world don't seek public view at all. Obviously, we know of, like, a lot of the billionaires that we know of.
But do we know about the most wealthy people around the world?
Well, this is the point that I'm trying to make, right?
Right.
So that's
Sorry.
that's fine. That's fine. That's what I'm trying to say, though, is like industry leaders, the people that part of their wealth accumulation was being a public figure. Yep. But the vast majority of billionaires in our society are people that don't want to be publicly known as being wealthy, that look at different ways to shield themselves from publicity because they don't want people to know about their money. They don't want us to know about them.
No, we should drag them into the light.
Okay.
Either this week or next week or never. On Second-Hand Haunting.
It's not the French Revolution.
I'm sorry, did you say French Revolution? That's fantastic. Sorry. I love it.
I said it's not the French Revolution.
Should be.